This is what automation. So when we are talking about automation testing, so the machine can be a software, right? So I say like without interaction and with instruction. Can I say like this? Manual testing, how do you perform manual testing is like you need to interact with the system, right?
Yeah.
You need to open the application, you need to feed some data into the input control, you need to click on some checkbox, you need to click on a button, you need to drag on some scroll bar, you need to click on a tabbed pane, you need to click on the tree structure. We need to do it manually, right?
Yes.
But when you are replacing the same with an automation tool, so what we are doing, what we are going to do is that just we are instructing the tool, so-called software. So software is taking care of that particular uh, testing and all. So that is what the difference between your automation and then manual testing, right? So, but thing is that I want to put a question. So, is there any challenge in manual testing?
It takes a lot of time consuming.
Pardon? Like,
It takes a lot of time. It's time consuming.
so
Manual
when you're
testing is.
talking about, yeah, you're talking about there is a constraint on time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, without manual testing, can we go for automation?
Yes, we can go for automation.
So without manual testing, we don't go for automation testing, right?
So we don't go.
Yeah, first we do conduct time like manual testing and then we go for automation.
Okay.
So the thing is that if I open an application, let's say there is some application. Let's say this is one application, Flipkart, a web application. I want to log in. Where I need to click?
Login button by entering the username and password.
Yeah, because this is a manual testing category, since I can look into the application, I can feel the application, I can identify the captions so-called login, go there and click on that particular login, right? Actually, what is this login? This is a link. This is a link, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you find a symbol called like hand symbol showing instead of cursor, if you have an a hand symbol, so you can say that that is a web link, right? When you click on login, it will be navigating to some other page. It is asking you for login ID and then password. There are two text boxes available here, two text areas. So where do I need to enter the user ID or where do I need to enter the password? It's very clear because the caption is visible to me. I could able to read so that I can identify. But what about the tool? If you consider tool, for tool this text box and this text box is the same. So when we are talking about automation, the main thing we need to remember or we need to consider is like on the screw on the screen there are many controls like graphical user interface, right? You have text boxes, you have labels, you have buttons, you have check boxes, you have radio buttons, right? On a screen what you can observe, like there are many things, like in this particular example if you see there are many items, like there are images, there are links, there is a text area, there's a label, right? There are many things, right? In an application, if you design, there are many graphical user interface components. Like, so in QTP, that is called object. Of course, I don't use the terminology object. In Selenium, we call that particular thing as an element. Text box in it. Why we call it as an element? Because most of the web applications, with what language we design the web pages, I think, if I'm not wrong, so for your it is using HTML, right? So in HTML, so those things are called form elements. Form elements means text box, list box, combo box, check box, everything are form elements. So the same word we'll be using in Selenium like element. So in automation testing, the main important concern is that you should be able to identify the element and then perform operation. What is testing? So what is testing? Like you find an element, right? Find an element, and what you do? You perform some operation, right? And what you do finally? And you will verify the result, right? Is this what we are doing in testing or anything else? You just find the element first of all and perform particular operation and then we'll verify the result. This is what we are doing under part of testing, right? Suppose if I ask you to check for the login functionality, what you will do? You find the element called user ID and you perform the operation entering the user ID and you'll verify the result. Like, so you do find the element regarding to password, perform the operation, and you find the element called button and you perform the operation called click, and finally what you do is that you verify the result. If the result what is appearing on the screen is your expected result, you say that this test was passed. If it is not matching with what you're expecting, is called fail, right? The same thing, instead of we, the software has to conduct. So as a human, as a perception, we are having a visual perception. You can identify what control is meant for what kind of operation and all. But it's a challenge when we are talking about automation. So the main challenge is called object identification, so-called element identification. We need to find out what is the element and what kind of operation that can be performed in an element. Apart from that, so that is the major thing. And second thing is that, so after performing your test, you should be able to report, right? Reporting the test results. So these are the two important aspects as part of testing. First thing is that conducting testing. Second thing is that test results are to be reported. Whether it is defect or pass, it's a different matter, but we need to report the test results, right? So these two are the challenges when we are talking about automation. So leave the word called Selenium. So the main challenge is like object identification. On a screen, how do I identify a particular object? So because if I say text box, so there are hundreds of text boxes on the machine. If I say button, there are hundreds of buttons. What is my targeted button? What is my targeted text box? What is my targeted checkbox? What is my targeted radio group? So this is what I need to do. So for this, is there any tool or is there any support? Is there any method in order to find a particular object? Yes, we do have certain tools, we do have certain methods, we do have certain process in order to identify the element. So the thing is that once you could able to identify the element and perform the appropriate operation on the element, so that indicates mostly the 50% of our automation challenge was okay. So how do we define like automation testing is that? Automation testing is that you are not going to interact with the application, but you are instructing a tool so that the tool is going to interact with the application. So, and then producing the test results. But what is the main agenda or main objective of using automation tool is like, so when we are talking about functional testing, the main objective is to conduct automation is to achieve regression testing. As Stephen said, right?
Yeah.
So in order to perform functional regression testing, so the automation tool come into picture. But we said like there are many automation tools available in market. So I said like which are having like huge market till like QTP, so-called UFT, right?
Yeah.
And Selenium. And we had a comparison between this QTP and Selenium. So Selenium is an open source and QTP is a proprietary, so which is licensed, not a free tool. But Selenium is an open source. So, and we have gone through certain features of QTP and we have gone through certain features of Selenium also, right? Now in this particular session, we just go through only the features of Selenium, what we are going to discuss. So let's have a revision of. So what kind of a tool is Selenium?
Automation tool.
Say yes, it's
Automation.
an automation tool. Yeah, open source
No, this was, yeah.
automation tool, right?
Yeah.
And one more thing is that, so what kind of applications can be automated through Selenium?
Most of them is in the plugins.
Only web applications. Only web applications. So other than web applications, like we cannot automate any other applications using Selenium, right? What is a web application like? What is web application?
Anything can be
Because
with the URLs.
So applications launched on a browser. So since it's very clear that Selenium cannot automate any desktop application, right? Selenium can automate only web application. Selenium cannot automate only cannot automate desktop application. It's the 1%. It's very clear. Second thing,
So
we want to use Selenium.
last time you said that based on the plugins, we can do most of the automation.
That is an add-on. That is an add-on. But as of now, like when you're talking about Selenium, so Selenium is a tool which can automate only web applications, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As per its independent nature, we can automate only web application. We cannot automate any desktop application. Any desktop application. Because desktop applications are launched on Windows or desktop. It cannot be launched on a browser. So applications which can be launched on a browser only can be tested through Selenium. So apart from those applications, we cannot test any other application. So that is the very important thing we need to remember. And thing is that, so in test case, what is the language we use in order to, in manual testing, what is the language we use in order to prepare the test case? A simple English, right?
Regular language.
Cases, you write some test cases like using simple English so that the user can, or the test engineer can understand and go through the test cases and then execute the test. But here, for automation testing, we use some programming languages and scripting languages, right? Because it's automation, you need to write some program. How do you instruct the tool? Using some program, giving an instruction. So instruction is nothing but a program, right? You are giving set of instructions. As per the definition, program is nothing but set of instructions. So you need to use certain programming language, right? Or not fully programming languages. Some tools will use only some scripting languages, right? So with Selenium, so what programming language bindings are there? So what are the programming languages or scripts that are compatible with Selenium? So make a list like, So we can use Java. Java is a programming language, and C#, .NET. So C# is also like C#, the programming language where you can have a language binding with Selenium. PHP is the script language, like it is compatible with Selenium. Perl, Python, and Ruby. So if you are a programmer of Java, you can simply use Java programming in order to prepare your test script. If you are a PHP developer, you can use PHP script in order to develop your test case in Java, sorry, Selenium. If you are a Ruby developer, you can use Ruby. Like there are 6 different options. Of course, JavaScript also, and nowadays they are using Scala. Programming languages and scripting languages that is having those which are having binding with your Selenium. Like these are the various options where you can prepare your test script using Selenium. So thing is that what is the requirement? First requirement in order to learn Java is that you should be aware of any one of these particular scripting languages or programming language, right? So our entire session will be dealing with Java. So we are using Selenium, so binding with Java. So this is thing. Okay, you know how to write a program. Let's assume that I'm assuming that we know how to write a program. Then when we are discussing about Selenium, so we'll see what are the different features are called, different tools under Selenium or different versions under Selenium. Like there is one tool called Selenium IDE. What is this called? Selenium IDE, which is integrated development environment. So Selenium IDE is an integrated development environment. So which is a plugin or add-on of Mozilla Firefox. Some so you got Selenium IDE is a plugin. It's a tool. It's a Selenium testing tool, automation tool. So what it is like, it's an integrated development environment. It's a plugin you can download and install where it can be added on the Mozilla Firefox browser. So this is the thing of Selenium testing tool, but the usage of Selenium IDE is, I think, not at all there. But in certain cases, we use Selenium IDE also. I'll let you know what is that particular case and how do you use that. So Selenium IDE is that initially so-called Selenium testing tool. But nowadays we are not using Selenium IDE. We are using latest Selenium WebDriver. So let's consider this is one tool which has evolved, like which is the initial tool of Selenium testing. And later we have something called Selenium RC. Karan, can you please mute?
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. So Selenium RC. So what is Selenium RC is like remote control. Selenium remote control. So this is called your Selenium version 1 or Selenium 1. It is called Selenium 1, not version 1. Selenium 1. So Selenium remote control. So this Selenium IDE, of course, I'll discuss again a session on Selenium IDE. So why it was not used. So what are its capabilities and what are its limitations and all. Why it was not being used and all we'll discuss. But I'm giving a list of what we are going to discuss in our sessions. So Selenium RC, Selenium 1. So after IDE, Selenium RC come into picture. RC stands for remote control. So this is a complete tool for automating a web application. Like you can do every web element automation using Selenium RC. So it supports all these 6 language bindings, no doubt. But still it is having a certain limitation. So the Selenium 2 came into picture. Selenium WebDriver. So Selenium WebDriver. So this is what we current version of Selenium. This is what we are using for automation. So this is called Selenium 2. So this Selenium 2 is consisting of Selenium 1 features also. It's like backward compatibility. So Selenium WebDriver is there. So now the current version of Selenium WebDriver is like 3.3.1. The current version of Selenium WebDriver is 3.3.1. So Selenium WebDriver. So these are the Selenium tools what we are going to discuss. Only I am talking about Selenium tools, but this doesn't make a complete test suite package. It's like Selenium. Apart from these, so Selenium RC, we need to integrate with Java, C Sharp, PHP, Perl, Python, Ruby in order to write your test script. At the same time, Selenium WebDriver also you need to integrate with Java, C Sharp, PHP, Perl, Python, Ruby and all. Like you need to write a program. In order to write a program, what we need is like a programming language. Yes, we need a programming language. Let's say S for Java. So we are developing our test scripts using Java, let's say. And where do we write these programs? Where do we need to compile this program? Where do we need to execute this program? We use a compiler, a loader, a linker kind of thing. We are using a platform so-called an integrated development environment so-called Eclipse. We are using Eclipse IDE. What is this Eclipse IDE? It's a, I said like there are many different types of tools which support your development and testing. So this is coming under programming tool. So Eclipse IDE is helping you in order to code your Java program and then compile your Java program and then interpret it, and then so the whole thing, the whole programming lifecycle can be achieved through one particular platform so-called Eclipse IDE we are using as part of Selenium training. So Eclipse IDE together combination with Java, we do write your. So how to use Eclipse IDE, how to create a project and how to run your project. So everything will be discussed like Eclipse IDE. So we are ready with Selenium suite now. I think now we come to discuss. Yes.
So Eclipse IDE only runs on Java, or it can be run on any different programming
Eclipse
languages like
IDE is available for numerous programming languages like C Sharp, C, C++. Like it is available for multiple languages, but we take a version of IDE and we are using it.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Eclipse Neon also same Eclipse or?
Eclipse IDE is the same. Neon is the latest version of Eclipse.
Okay, but previously we download like Eclipse for Java. Now Eclipse Neon, instead of we can use this one, is it?
Thing is that it was coming in the versions like now it is Eclipse Neon. Previously it was Eclipse Mars. Like it is like alphabetical order: Kepler, Luna, Mars, and then Neon. Yeah, like that it is coming. The version names are like.
Okay,
So
yeah,
Eclipse
because
is
I'm
the
trying to
same.
download Eclipse, but it's showing only Eclipse for Neon. That's why I'm confused.
Yeah. The current version of Eclipse is Neon.
All right, so Eclipse Neon is okay.
The latest version, but it is compatible with only Java 1.8. Like it won't support the lower versions of Java. It supports 1.8 version of Java. Yeah. So Eclipse Neon. Yeah.
So we can,
So this is like,
if we want to use, so we can use the Neon only, yeah?
yeah. Now we are downloading Neon and then we use Neon only. What is the latest Eclipse? Anyway, we can use the older version also. But thing is that the earlier versions of Eclipse, okay, support one. So the latest version will not support the lower versions of Java. 1.7 will not be supported. 1.6 will not be supported.
Now
Like
latest is Java 8, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the current version you need to use only 1.8 version of Java. So the earlier versions are not compatible with Eclipse Neon. That's the problem.
Okay. But now latest Java version is 8, is it? Or other than?
Yeah, 8.
8.
Yeah. So This is Selenium tool. When I talk about only from the Selenium part, this is the Selenium tool. But thing is that with this, what we can do is that we can create a test script, no doubt. We can execute the test script, no doubt in that, but we cannot report. We cannot report.
Hmm.
So the ultimate goal is that we need to report, right?
Yeah.
So when we are performing certain tests, you need to report like these are the tests I have been performed, and this is my test analysis report. These many tests were passed, these many tests were failed, these many tests were failed of these particular assertions, and I need to report at the end of the day, right? But this Selenium will not provide you any interface kind of thing like in order to formally report your tests. So in this case, what we are using is that we are integrating with one particular unit test framework, JUnit. You might have heard this word called JUnit or TESTNG. JUnit or TESTNG. So what we are going to discuss is that we are going to discuss these two frameworks. So how to integrate your JUnit and or how to integrate your TESTNG framework with Selenium so that you can generate test reports also. Actually, these are unit test frameworks, but we are using as a we are using in testing also. So JUnit or TESTNG. Thing is that these two frameworks are having a inbuilt report generation facility so that you can generate the reports. So JUnit and TESTNG. What I prefer is that in my training I'll prefer only TESTNG because TESTNG is the latest one.
Okay.
And TESTNG is not what I can say is not uh, an upgraded version of JUnit. JUnit is a separate entity and TESTNG is a separate entity. So both are not related, but working with JUnit is 98% similar to working with TESTNG. Like if you say I'm good at TESTNG, so you can say that ultimately you are good at test JUnit also. If you are already using JUnit, it's okay. If this is the first time, I recommend to use only TestNG because so compared to JUnit, TestNG got more features because it was latest into the market, so it got more features. So either JUnit or TestNG can be used.
Both
So,
annotations same, is it?
both are both the purpose is the same.
Okay.
So only like very 0.5 to 1% kind of differences will be there. So you can say simply, suppose if you are doing like TestNG, immediately you can work on JUnit. If you are so far working in JUnit, immediately you can work with TestNG. You won't find much difference in using both. But they are not from the same like vendor or same producer or kind of. JUnit is and TestNG is a separate entity. So our role is like in order to control, here the test frame is like in order to control your test process and in order to generate the reports we are using JUnit or TestNG framework like. So this part we are going to discuss, and thing is that okay, we are going to discuss, but these reports are not like pretty much interesting and pretty much concise or summarized so that you can show it to your client or the manager, sir. So in order to make it, I need to have an XSLT report. So what I'm going to do is that I'm using a tool called like combining A and T. So there is another tool which is called A and T. It's a build tool. So I combine A and T, A and T, and
Okay.
it's called another new tool. A and T stands for another new tool.
Oh.
So actually this A and T is not for developing the reports, it's a build tool. A build tool because nowadays we are having so many IDEs and all, but earlier there are no IDEs, right? They'll be using text editors and DOS editors in order to create their program, and then they go to command prompt, type Java C file name .java and then Java file name followed by, they'll be executing like that, right?
Mm.
This Ant, another new tool is used by Java developers in order to build entire Java project at once. So go to command prompt because most of the like programming environments are Linux and then command based. So in order to execute your entire project from command prompt, we are using a tool called ANT, another new tool. It's a build tool. So, but what we can do is like we can build our entire Selenium project ANT, because Selenium project is nothing but our Java project, right? So we can build the entire Selenium project and we can integrate this ANT with TESTNG so that we can generate better reports called TESTNG XSLT reports. Comparatively, like it's a better report. TESTNG XSLT reports, how to generate. So we'll be discussing like. And thing is that, right? So why we are going for automation testing? Like we discussed, like what is the reason for going for automation? Like regression testing, right? We said regression testing is the main reason. That is why we are going for automation testing, right? Stephen?
Sorry, I was in mute. I didn't see. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So if the regression testing, what exactly you mean by regression testing is like repeating your test suite, right? Repeating your test cases. Of course, under certain circumstances, but you're repeating your test cases. But every time you repeat with the same set of data?
No,
right?
different.
No, different.
If you are executing your test case with only one particular set of data, then it is a waste of time, effort, money, everything in order to develop an automation tool and do the same thing by using automation tool, right? The thing is that you are going to execute the same test case with multiple sets of data, right? So when you're going to employ multiple sets of data and execute the same test case for, let's say, 500 times or 1000 times, so it's a very difficult and it is like a cumbersome process. It may not be accurate. But when you train a particular tool, I mean, you're writing a particular program and you're executing the same program 1000 times also gives the correct answer. Unless and until the program working correct, so there are no side effects, so it will be giving the accurate result. The only thing you need to change is the data, right? You need to change the data. So you should have a capability of working with data. So how you employ data to a test case? Normal manual testing. Where is your test data?
We have to prepare ourselves, or sometimes they will given to test.
Yeah, but prepare and store. Where you store?
In the quality center QC,
Excel sheet.
I put you this question is because, I think, yes, you put in Excel sheet, yes. Can I put in a text file?
Or like a text notepad.
Can I put in a database?
Why not?
Right, see, why I discuss this particular point is that when we are talking about another tool called QTP is having an inbuilt feature called data sheet. So where you can employ all your data there and then automatically the test script will take the data from data sheet and then execute. And QTP itself is having an Excel facility, QTP is having itself its text facility, QTP is having itself an internal database facility where Selenium doesn't have. But still all the language bindings that can be done with Selenium having these features. So when we want to work with some kind of data-driven testing, I said like functional testing is mostly data-driven testing. You need to change the data. The test case is the same, but the data that is being employed is the different. So where do you put all the data? 99% of the cases, as you said, the test data will be placed in Excel sheet. We prepare test data in an Excel sheet, and what we need to do is that we need to employ this test data to test case. So how to work with test data? Like, so Selenium inbuilt doesn't have any feature. So what we need to do is that we need to use JXL. It's a plugin. We need to use JXL plugin in order to work with Excel sheet, but there is a limitation because so you see DOC and DOCX, the format. if you see, like, there are up to 2007, the format of Excel sheet is different. From Microsoft Office 2007, the format is different, right?
XSLT is it?
XLSX, extended XLX. So means they are based on XML. So this JXL will not support XML based Excel spreadsheet. So what we are going to use that. So there is another plugin called from Apache Poi. So what this Apache Poi is doing, like, so this Apache Poi is acting as an interface between Java, not between Selenium, between Java and Microsoft products. You got the point, right? Microsoft products in the sense, it is not only for Excel sheet, it is for all Microsoft Office products. So between Java and between
Java and Excel. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Microsoft
yeah,
product like
Java,
Microsoft,
yeah, yeah.
Java and Microsoft.
The main, yes. So if we are going to download these two, like I call plugins, and I need to integrate with your Selenium so that we can work with test data also. We can work with test data. The thing is that we came to know that, so using Selenium, we can write a test case, and if you integrate with JUNIT or TESTNG, we can generate a report, and we can use data if we include JXL plugin and Apache Py plugin. Okay, but how to access database in Java? There is a concept called JDBC, Java database connectivity. So that what we can do is that we can perform database testing also using Selenium. So with Selenium,
like
what we can do is that,
MS Access or like SQL Server, or is it?
yeah, you can just you change the connection string. If you give the connection string for MS Access, like JDBC, ODBC, you can do that. You can give an SQL driver 4 also. You can give. You can give Oracle connection string also. And we can, whatever we can do with like JDBC, the everything can be done, because JDBC is a feature of Java and Selenium can be integrated with Java, so that this feature can be attributed to again Selenium. So means when we are talking about data driven testing can be possible using Selenium, database testing is also possible by Selenium, and looking into another perspective is like, because performance testing and security testing comes under non-functional testing, it's not functional testing. So this is what we have discussed under Java. But thing is that there is a special feature in Selenium called Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid.
Great.
What is this Selenium Grid? Thing is that as a test engineer, you are supposed to test a particular functionality or an application. Let's say not only one on a particular platform or in a single browser, right? You need to test your application on multiple platforms and on multiple browsers, right? But how do you test? I configure one PC with one particular platform. Let's say PC1 is configured with Windows and Internet Explorer. PC2 is with Safari and then Linux. PC3 with some Macintosh and then Mozilla Firefox kind of thing. So how do you, I need to deploy the application, I need to access the application from PC1 and then test it, PC2 and then test it, PC3. So-called compatibility testing, right? You have something called compatibility testing, because whatever the application you are developing is a web application, right? What is a web application which can be launched on a
different browsers?
Because I cannot I cannot restrict my user, I cannot restrict my customer so that you use only Macintosh and so and so browser. You don't use Windows and then Internet Explorer. I cannot restrict, because it's a web application. It can be accessed from any platform or any browser. I need to perform so-called compatibility testing. But compatibility testing, I need to have multiple PCs installed with multiple, or I need to configure the same PC with multiple. So Selenium Grid is a beautiful facility where you can perform compatibility testing and I can say you can perform
Cross-browser
multiple,
testing.
yeah, yeah, that's what, cross-browser and cross-platform testing. At the same time, you can perform cross-browser testing also. And these tests can be achieved either serially or parallelly also. When I'm saying serially and parallelly and cross-browser and cross-platform, it's not actually the performance testing, but it's a kind of simulating performance testing, right? Because parallelly I can conduct cross-browser testing, parallelly I can conduct cross-platform testing. What do you mean by that? If I configure all my clients as a single platform, if I configure all my clients as a single browser, so that I am conducting performance testing, right? Yeah, but it is not performance testing, it's a kind of simulating performance testing also. So how to configure the Selenium grid in order to achieve cross-browser and cross-platform testing is a part of, again, like our training. And if you know each and every individual feature like Selenium grid, JUnit, TESTNG, and then WebDriver, so at the end of the day, what we need to do is that, so we need to design your test framework. So test framework is not a technology, it's a concept, it's a process. So you need to design a framework so that you can carry out all your, it's like, what is a framework is like framing your entire work into a proper structure is called framework. So it's not a technology, it's a framework, it's an idea being how to design your test for a particular given application based on the nature of the application and all. Now like different framework culture, so functional, so based upon the functionality, if you do, that is called modular framework. Based on, like, suppose most of the functional testing is data based, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of framework is called data driven framework. And so we have a more generic based on a keyword. They called keyword driven framework. Most of the cases what we do is that we combine data driven and keyword driven, so called hybrid framework. But in Java we have, in recent days we are using page object model framework. What
Cucumber?
is this page object model? Cucumber is not this frame. Cucumber is a kind of framework like TESTNG and JUnit.
It's not even one of the framework, is it? Cucumber.
Yeah, it's a framework, but the framework what I mean here is different. The framework what I mean regarding to Cucumber is different. TESTNG is also a framework. It's a test control framework. And JUnit is also a framework like that. Cucumber is a test control framework, which is having some annotations and all. But this framework is that what you design.
So
that framework is that it is a support from that API in order to control the test. So once you use only, you come to know how these frameworks are different from that framework. So this is part of Selenium we are going to discuss. Apart from this, because today
is it form is a concept or framework?
It's a concept.
Okay.
And but still there are some classes in Selenium WebDriver API where we can make use of form design also. It is from API itself. It is not from any other not other than Selenium WebDriver API. It is within the Selenium WebDriver API. You have Page Factory. Using Page Factory, we do page object model framework design and all.
Yeah, that's
This, this is the basic thing when we are talking about Selenium. But thing is that nowadays, it's like, it's not like configuring everything. Like we should have a convention over configuration. Everything we say, like all the class files should be here, all the Java files should be there, all the test files should be there, like that. We need to configure, data should be here and all. But nowadays, what type of project you are creating is like, we have a great repository called Maven, right? You may come across this. Yeah, Maven is it's a kind of repository. At the same time, it's a build tool. We need to create a project under Maven repository, like how to create a project using Maven and how to execute a Maven project. So that which makes the work very easy, like in how to use Maven instead of creating a Selenium, like a normal project, we are going to create a Maven project. So the whole process will be taken care by Maven, like by creating folders and then creating separate test folder, creating separate code folder, creating everything. Means it's a convention over configuration concept. How Maven will help you in developing your Selenium application. Normally, it can be not only for Selenium application, so it is for a developer also. They can create a Maven project. So how to work with Maven? So we do that. And there is something called continuous integration, right?
okay. The data-driven framework, Kumar, the data-driven framework, key-driven framework. This is all one simple concept we are applying in Selenium, is it?
Yes, these are the concepts not only for Selenium, for any kind of automation tool.
Okay.
But page object model is only for Selenium.
Okay.
Okay. These are the concepts applied for any automation tool. Whatever the tool you use, that doesn't matter. It's like a modular framework. Means I am designing my test based on the functionality. If I design my test based on the data, if I design my test based on a keyword, like each and every framework concept is having a certain like motto. So what is the main motto behind designing that particular framework? But it is a very early stage to discuss about that. So using Jenkins, we do how to continuous integration, how to schedule your test. Let's say suppose I am leaving the office by 6 p.m. and I need to execute a particular test at 12 a.m. night. Like what I can do is that I can integrate that particular test. I can schedule that particular test using Jenkins, where it can execute and directly send the results to the project manager and as well as the customer also. Means build automation can be done using Jenkins. How that can be done? So these, whatever we are discussing is like out of Selenium again.
Jenkins, both same, is it? Jenkins
yeah. Jenkins is different, and what you're talking about is a GitHub.
Both same or different?
There is no, both are not same. Jenkins is different. It's a build automation. It's a continuous integration tool. GitHub is a repository. It's a repository mainly used for version control. Like because you use VSS and SVN, right?
Yeah, Subversion.
Java developers will use Subversion, but the better replacement is Git. So Git is a version control. It's having a global repository.
Working with a multiple environment, multiple user access the code. That time, so we have.
Yes. The version control can be well done. Compared to SVN, Git is better. Of course, still we do developers use SVN, but nowadays, like if you see from past 5 years, the Git wasn't popular. So how to configure Git and how to create your project in a workspace in a Git and all, how to deploy your entire code into Git and how to make version control using Git. So is a part of again the training and all. It's not only simple kind of Selenium WebDriver functionalities and all. It is something certain concepts what we use in real time so that you'll get some awareness on that. So this is, I said like Selenium can do. There is something Selenium cannot do, right?
Yeah.
What is that something? Selenium cannot do. If you take any web application,
so
you
using
take any
Selenium IDE, you write your code, test cases and all. You have to execute within the Selenium, but you have to use a different kind of POM framework. You have to design your code, is it?
Yeah, thing is that here, because that is again a part of Selenium. Thing is, Selenium, what Selenium cannot do is the things, so it is not within the hands of Selenium. Even though you integrate with any plugin, it is not within the hands of Selenium. It's like one thing. So when we are talking about web application, and we made a very like, what kind of a thing, like I cannot say warning and all. Of course, we given an instruction that Selenium is only for web application automation, right? But 99% of the web applications use window components in between. Like if I want to upload a file, where do you upload a file? You need to browse from your desktop. You need to browse from your, I need to upload a photograph. I need to do attachments, right?
Yeah.
But when you click on attach browse button, what kind of a window you are getting? Are you getting any web application kind of window? No, it is not launching on the browser, right? It is a window. It is a desktop window, right?
Yeah.
I need to select a file and I need to click on open so that it will be attached. So when there is a window component in between the web application, Selenium fails. You cannot automate that particular component. Because Selenium cannot identify any window, any desktop, because it is not launched by the rule. As per the policy, Selenium cannot do automation for such kind of components. So what is the solution is that there are 3 different solutions, of course many more than 3 also. So there is one class in Java called robot class. One class in called Java class, robot class. So using robot class, what I can do is that I can handle window components. And there is another alternative called, there is one tool called Auto IT. Auto IT. It's an automation tool again. It's an automation tool. So what I can do is that I can use Auto IT tool and I can generate some exe file, and that exe file I'll integrate with my Selenium and I can again handle window components. That is one alternative. There is another tool called Securely. It's an open source. Securely. This Securely tool is like, can be integrated with Selenium, and what we can do is that we can handle window components again. So there are 3 different options. Of course, Auto IT we can use it. Securely is an again separate tool. Securely can automate web application as well as desktop applications also. It's a separate tool. Auto IT can handle window applications. So we use Auto IT, and how to use robot class also we'll be discussing in that class. So every part will be discussed in detail, and along with the following concepts of Java, like very basic Java introduction, data types, loops and conditions, loops concepts, file handling, threads, and little bit of utility package. So this content of Java is more than enough in order to work with Selenium. But how we discuss framework is that we take a particular website, we try to automate continuously 2 or 3 web pages, and we'll design different framework for those 2 web pages so that you can identify what is the difference from functional like modular driven framework to data driven, and data driven framework to keyword driven framework, and how page object model framework is different from all above frameworks also. Instead of doing on a single page, what we do is that we do kind of integration like test one page, test two another page, and test one, test two together integrated and then tested. So that you'll come to know how to automate a particular web application like using page object model and all. So these are the like, if I say, these are not detailed chapter. Again, this is a structure of what we are going to discuss in coming 40 sessions. Seems like Greek and Latin for the first session because we have not yet started in Selenium. But I'll make you easy. So Stephen, is it clear?
Yeah. What is the headless testing?
You are asking about headless testing.
Yes. What is that?
That comes under Java FX, right?
Yeah, just I'm asking like headless test. I heard of the word, but I don't know what is a headless testing means. What it's a.
When you perform an event, it's like if I say, if I click on a button, there is an event rising, right?
Yeah.
What is the event I can define on a label? No, there is no event if I define on a label. Label is a static part, right?
Yeah. Oh, in the button inside
So
some static label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When your assertion is nothing like, there is an exception called headless exception. There is that is the condition where we talk about headless testing.
Oh, is it like concept headless testing means like any button, submit button we are submitting. So inside the contains some text. So that is it's a static. That is why we call headless testing.
Not exactly, but I can give you an example while we're discussing, like, so that you can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll meet at 5 p.m. IST, and we'll start with Selenium IDE first. Of course, Selenium IDE is not in use, but I'll give some basic knowledge on Selenium IDE, how it was used to. It's a plug and play tool. You need to record and playback tool. So you need to install just directly onto the browser, and you need to directly use with, you can record a test case and then you can play back again. And how to asset with that, what kind of report will be generated using Selenium IDE, and what are the limitations with Selenium IDE, what are the various commands come under Selenium IDE, why Selenium IDE is not under use now. So these concepts we'll discuss in tomorrow's class. So have a good day.
We can download Selenium IDE on any browser or on Mozilla.
Yeah, Mozilla Firefox. I said like that is the reason I given like Selenium IDE. And thing is that in how to download and how to configure also will be taken in the class. So where to go, from where you need to download, what file you should download for what kind of platform, and then how to configure with your Eclipse, and then how to work with will be demonstrated very clearly and slowly.
Okay. Thanks. Today I think you gave a very high level information. So I think Dharan and you are on the same page.
This is like, it's a content, it's a syllabus. That's it. Not any class like. Not topic. No topic was discussed. It's a like, what are the topics you are going to cover in this test, like course we are going to discuss. That's it. I have given a syllabus. It's a kind of index, let's say.